everyone, I'm Hugo.
And I'm Jake. That was peppy. Holy shit.
I'm gonna be peppy today.
I don't like it. I'm gonna be grumpy.
Okay, this is gonna be good. Yes, let's do this. I'm so on board. Baby birds.
I don't even say that very much. It was like a one-time thing.
Corn.
That's my Twitch channel.
Cornaments. Overly confident joke.
Overly confident?
Yes.
I think it's just confident.
Yeah, I'm sure you do.
I don't know.
Anyway, first comment. Cactus Royalty. Dear Hugo and Jake, have you considered discussing different political ideologies on the channel? I mean,
yeah.
we kind of already discussed politics.
Yeah, but I think they mean political ideologies in like, how do you feel about libertarianism? It's dumb. How do you feel about pure capitalism? It's dumb.
See, here's the thing about talking about just saying that doesn't go into any of the topics in
No,
any sort
not.
of intensive way that helps
explain
the discussion at all.
No.
So
right, I wasn't going to go through and be like, here's why I disagree with libertarianism and talk about that for an hour and a half today.
Sure.
Just know that I think it's dumb, and you can ask me another time if you'd like. I'm sure you will. All my tanky friends in the comments there, I think that's dumb too. I think a mixed system is best for a myriad of reasons, and I could explain that to you in a longer form. If you ever want to discuss it, I'm available on Twitch. I open the mic up to everybody. It's not a big deal. But as far as have we considered doing this like on the channel and not on Twitch, because Twitch is where most of my political content is. Yeah. It depends. It depends on if it runs into content that we would put on here, I think. I don't know, did you want to highlight a specific political idea? I mean, like, being racist is bad. Like, is that a political ideology, like white supremacy? Because, I think there are very interesting things to talk about in those realms.
I don't feel like I'm not a very, like, how do I put this? I'm not good at big picture, long-term, like, here's an overview of what libertarianism is, and here's why I think it's bad. If someone brought me a specific instance, hey, I'm libertarian about this specific topic, for instance...
Well, that's not being a libertarian. That's right. That's being libertist about...
I'm not even... The person could be a full libertarian,
sure.
But they have to come to me with, like... Here's a specific topic. Let's talk about this specific topic.
Okay,
I'm bad at big overviews because I get caught up in, this, but this, and then I go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth.
So that's why, like, discussing things with libertarians specifically or tankies, they're kind of the opposite of the same coin. Each of them wanted to do, to some level, dissolve, like, the central government in a way that makes it either ineffective or non-existent. Right, and then people would own their own shit.
Either communally or individually.
Right, and then so these systems break down when you start eliminating the lattice work of like local government, community government, like in different levels of government, how we self-organize just intrinsically,
sure.
In my opinion, because it seems to always happen, because you always say like, okay, but... Especially for libertarians, like if someone owns the water in a desert, that person's in charge now.
Yeah.
Right. And so like you end up being in not only like a feudal system, but possible caste system. And so these things break down over time. And that's not to say that a libertarian idea such as who cares what someone's sexuality is, who cares what drugs they do, those things I can get on board with, but a libertarian like country doesn't make sense,
sure.
Like or a sovereign state in whatever way.
I'd imagine,
right?
I know you agree with me on this because you already said you want a mixed system. There's no political system that on paper is exactly what it is and then works that way in real life.
That's why I think a mixed system, because I think so. We have checks and balances in government, and we think that that's a good system.
Do we? Hasn't been working out so lately.
Well, no, it's definitely been working out in that, like, there's not, like he's been getting blocked by lots of courts and stuff. You know, it doesn't work as well as we'd like to have it work, but at the same time, it is a balance and a check. It's not a perfect system. It's just a decent one right now. So I think, in a similar way, economic systems that can work in conjunction, such as socialist systems and capitalist systems, can work to check each other in ways that, like, let's just use medicine as an example because it's, you know, it's a big topic. For instance, socialized healthcare. I think it's probably the most popular model, especially in left-wing circles. But I think just in general, I think it has an overwhelming, like, popularity rate. It's definitely over half of people. but popularity aside, if you have a public health system with a private option, those check each other, right?
Sure.
And so that's important to me because you don't want a monopoly on either side. I don't think it'd be good to have just socialist healthcare. I think it'd be good to have an option for private, to have your family doctor and pick whoever it is. I mean, you could probably pick in the other system anyway, but let's say you can't. To be able to have the option to do so is still a good check on the public system, especially because the argument for capitalism is that it drives innovation. So if it drives innovation, it's going to feed into the system because capitalists will sell to the government. Sure. And so this is a good thing. And I don't know, there's lots of different ways. I think, for instance, where this doesn't work is such as prisons.
Yeah.
So I don't think you should have private prisons. I think that's unethical to... I don't want to use this as a buzzword, and it's not to be a buzzword, it's not to be a catch-all, it doesn't mean the blanket statement, it probably is a little loaded, but just bear with me. It's kind of slavery, and it's kind of buying people's lives and using them to make money. And
it's not kind of that. I believe the 13th Amendment, the amendment to the Constitution that even bans slavery, specifically says, except in cases of imprisonment, because legally speaking,
you can make
there's
them work.
not a lot of differences.
I know.
And when you're a private prison, I mean, this has been highlighted on prison TV
Cash
shows.
bail is another problem like this.
Orange is the New Black did a whole season where, like, a private company bought the prison and they started using the prisons for labor to make, basically sweatshop garments and stuff.
I mean, this does happen. I just didn't want to... I didn't want to bring it down to the level of chattel slavery that it used to be like, because it's not that. They're not breeding people. They're not, forcing families. So it's not as bad, but it's still very bad. Great. And so, it's stuff like that. So, I mean, those are pretty obvious things that I think most people agree with. I could be wrong. I hope I'm not wrong. But as far as that content would have to run into like a movie review, like later on we might talk about a movie we might do that might run into that.
Sure. Nim Nix, dear Hierophant and Jester, is there a biblical story or parable you think best represents your sense of ethics or morality? Interesting. Okay.
I'm gonna pass it off to you first because I'm wondering if you have a different answer than I do, and I don't want to flavor your answer.
Oh boy!
Because you also have a history with this, whereas I don't. So I'm wondering if you have something that kind of sticks to you a little bit that you didn't think maybe would have stuck to you, when you left.
That best represents. Interesting. Okay.
At least it's close.
That's tough. A lot of the Old Testament is out of the picture because a lot of the Old Testament stuff, while I find it compelling mythology, the Moses story in particular, for obvious reasons, because if you go take a literature class of any kind, they're going to tell you, there are like something like 5 or 7 types of stories. One of those types of stories is called the Moses story. Mm-hmm. It's like a story that
it's Harry Potter.
It
is. The meekest among us are risen up by forces out of their control.
Get sent away for a time, come back, become a savior for their people. Yeah. That's an interesting mythological story, but it doesn't really set up any morality or anything that I agree with. Old Testament. Interesting. I'm gonna have to say, I guess.
Story or parable you think best represents your sense of ethics or morality?
It's tough because I don't know, because there's almost in every story. I'm just going to say Jesus in general has some interesting things to say about morality that I agree with. We'll touch on this.
My answer isn't a parable or a story necessarily, but it is the golden rule. Treat others the way you would like to be treated. That implies a piety within the context of that structure there. Do unto others as you would do to yourself. That's kind of, I think, pretty reasonable in general. Like, if you wouldn't want physical harm to come to you, if you wouldn't want to steal something, it's very similar to, again, I mentioned this before, it's similar in at base level to how Matt Dillahunty argues for secular morality, and I think it's a good argument, and I think it's useful in most circumstances, and so that one doesn't ever really. You know how when sometimes when Jesus says good stuff in the book, it's always bookended by bad shit?
Yeah.
That one kind of doesn't have that baggage with it.
As long as it's in the middle of Matthew,
no, I know.
Something.
I'm just saying right there.
If you sequester it, sure.
Yeah, exactly. Like you gotta pluck these things out of there, which is why Christians do that. It's literally you have to cherry pick stuff.
Sure.
I don't know. What do you think?
I pretty much agree with you. I'm trying to think of... Jesus had some good stuff, and for the time, I guess it was all probably good stuff.
There's-
Like, an eye for an eye makes the whole world blind. That's a really great thing to think. Turn the other cheek. That's a good thing, but again, it's not something I agree with overall. It's a good way to look at your morality in general. But if someone
It's nice for children.
I think it's a good thing in general, because I think for the most part in modern society, this isn't even necessarily true when Jesus is around.
Sure.
But, like, for the most part, if someone slights you these days, it's probably not dire. It's probably someone stole your parking spot, or maybe someone at work is being an asshole. Most of the time it is shit you can, like, just be
Deal
like,
with.
fuck it, whatever. I think that's general good advice, is to let things go when they don't matter. However, that is a general principle in all matters of morality, not necessarily the case. Someone can commit a crime, and you don't just turn the
Someone
other
could
cheek on that.
abuse you.
Sure. Like,
Yeah.
justice exists for a reason. I believe it as a concept. Justice is a thing.
Right. As a social
Sure, as
construct.
a social construct, not as like an actual out there ethereal thing. Just, I don't know. I think some of the things Jesus says, as long as you take it in balance with other things. I find many of the similar to, I think Thomas Jefferson took a lot of the stuff Jesus did in the Bible, literally took his Bible and cut it up and took all the miracles out and just like made a book, and it was like the philosophies of Jesus Christ. Jesus as a Western philosopher.
Decent.
Interesting.
Not great. Decent. I think there's probably some proverbs and stuff. I feel like I remember us picking them out. I can't remember them off the top of my head now, but there were some proverbs we thought, okay, this is kind of interesting, kind of cool. I don't know. Yeah. Song of Songs, calling your girlfriend's titties goats. That's a thing I stick with.
King Glasstooth. Dear Huggy Bear and Papa Poultry. Well, that's a good one. I'm currently reading Chariots of the Gods. While I think some concepts presented oversimplify ancient cultures, I do find other points very interesting. For example, the gods descending from the sky idea that's pervasive throughout differing cultures, cut off from each other geographically. The hypotheses about the Maya in particular are fascinating, not fully buying into the whole God is an astronaut thing, but I think there is a lot about our past that we still don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts about this book and or its ideas? P.S. Are you yourselves, in fact, filthy lizard people? If so, now is the time to come out. The truth will set you free.
I've never read this book, but this is Ancient Aliens kind of stuff. So, number one, there's no evidence of Ancient Aliens or panspermia in the way that it's presented to us by any of the people that talk about Ancient Aliens. For instance, a lot of people are like, aliens built the pyramids. There's no evidence of that happening. And now maybe you're thinking, Drake, what evidence would there be of aliens? What we would have is evidence that they got helped by something that wasn't just them doing it, and what the evidence we have is they just did it.
I'd also think if aliens came to Earth and wanted people to know, like, they can travel across the universe, something that would require an amount of power equivalent to like a fucking Dyson sphere. I don't know.
A lot.
And they're like, we'll teach you guys how to pile rocks real good.
Right, I know. Like, that doesn't seem... those people think it's a battery and shit, though. So,
that's dumb. You're wrong. No. You know what? The pyramids, very impressive for an ancient peoples. Yeah. If aliens did it, shitty fucking aliens!
Yeah, terrible aliens.
I'm so disappointed by these aliens.
Stonehenge, same thing, Easter Island, all that stuff. So, but the interesting part of this question is... the widespread gods come from the sky aspect, and I'll tell you the reason why, and it's going to be disappointing, and you're going to be like, is that it? It's weather. It's weather and climate.
Things descending from the heavens, I also think.
Yep.
A lot of things
the
like
sun
this.
and the moon are pretty fucking crazy, and the stars are crazy, and if you don't know what those things are, the hot orb or the cold one, you're like, what the fuck is going on up there? Why are there those? And those are up there, and then also rain comes down, tornadoes, lightning, like monsoon seasons, hurricane, depending on where you're at in the world, droughts, and also the reason your crops grow. Like, a lot of it's weather, and a lot of it is... I mean, every religion, especially if as long as you move backwards towards the earliest part of that religion that you can look at, and it's almost always climate and weather.
It's
Almost always.
It's also interesting to think about from an ancient perspective. The world that we live in today is much more three-dimensional than it was back then, if that makes sense.
Yep.
You don't have tall buildings back then, at least not tall in the way that we have skyscrapers now. Even a small skyscraper in your town might be... We have buildings in this town that would have been the tallest buildings in the world back then, just because of developments in materials and construction and stuff like that.
Imagine the first time they saw a castle.
Right, like, you imagine your entire world, the highest you can ever go is the highest altitude you can get to, so a mountain, which is why in Genesis you have a lot of, like, you have...
Jesus does this too.
In Exodus, you have Moses going to, like, the top of a mountain and stuff to get the Ten Commandments. Genesis? Is that in Genesis or Exodus?
Exodus. If it's Moses.
Yep, you're right, sorry. You have these stories of people going up, and they're closer to God because they are high up in the air on a mountain, you know? The sky is just a mystery to these people because they're stuck to the ground by gravity.
Yeah.
They do not have a means.
It's super interesting. What I suggest is, after you read this, pick up anthropology books written by anthropologists. They're going to be dry reads, but just skim through and look at sections that you think are interesting. Go to the library. Don't buy these books; they're expensive. Or rent them out at your college or whatever you're at. Look them up online even. Watch some anthropology courses on the internet. Take an anthropology course. These people will illuminate the world for you. Everything makes sense. Humanity is not that complex a beast for being such complex beasts. We are very pattern driven. We do a lot of the same thing all the time. We all co-evolved. Keep this in mind. It's not surprising that we have similar ideas.
We're running on the same hardware, more or less.
It's like asking I don't know, what's an old processor? A Pentium. Yeah. Pentium 4 or whatever. To like find the most efficient algorithm to do blank. And then asking a separate one, a Pentium 5 even, to do the same thing. Like, the answers aren't going to be that far off, even if they've never met each other and haven't been able to communicate over the internet and collaborate. So, that's a kind of a silly example. But, like, I think you get it. We are pattern-seeking animals. We see faces and stuff. We like to see patterns in things. It's why you see Jesus in toast. These things we think are just idiosyncrasies that don't have like any sort of like point on a map. Like, if you plotted that in our human psyche, it'd be very obvious why we think these things. So I think we overestimate how unique we are when we discuss this type of phenomenon. We suck. So I'm sorry. I told you this answer was going to be kind of rough.
Jar of mayo. Oh, it's Icilius's friend. Dear, that's a Charisma Saves joke.
Watch Charisma Saves, you punks!
Over at Unpop. It's where you get your D&D goodness.
It's very popular.
Dear Hugina and Jackie, what's a conspiracy theory that's so crazy that you think is true? I have one for this.
Okay, so I want to hear yours because Okay, for the record, Papa loves some conspiracy theories. Boy, are they interesting. Always end up being false, but I love them. I went on a binge of JFK for 8 months once. Okay. What's your favorite?
I have two.
Okay.
One's going to be a quick Tesla one.
Oh, God.
And then one's going to be the... One is...
Conspiracy theory Tesla.
I deep dick this Tesla stuff when I'm not here. That's what I'm doing. I'm in front of my 7 screens, like the movie Hackers. I'm Macaulay Culkin out. Cameras
Macaulay
are Macaulay
Culkin is in Hackers?
Yes, of course he's in Hackers. Anyway, so... I feel like Tesla, because there's a thing with Teslas. People are not getting their registrations and their VIN numbers registered correctly.
Oh yeah.
There's been a rumor that Tesla, in order to keep, how do I put this? To keep their cash on hand looking like
allegedly, all this is alleged.
This is a conspiracy theory. I'm not saying this is true. I'm saying it'd be interesting if this turned out to be true.
Elon might watch this. So.
In order to keep
very secure.
In order to keep their cash on hand looking healthier than it actually is for investors and the SEC, what they are doing is pretending they are still in possession of these automobiles that they've already given to the customer and not registering them until like a month or two later, so they can say like, we have this inventory. It counts as not liquid cash, but it counts as inventory, even though it's not here.
So they hold on to that until they have inventory to replace that? Is that kind of the idea here?
Yeah, and it tends to be towards like the end of quarters, so they can pump up their like numbers. Not saying that's true. This is all alleged. Okay, now here's one that I'm more thinking is true.
Is this still Tesla?
No.
Okay, cool.
This is about Chuck E. Cheese. Chuck E.
What?
Cheese
Okay.
is reusing their pizza!
They're reusing their pizza?
Show the pictures!
Well,
There's gonna be pictures!
are you editing this?
No, you edit this and you put this picture
Okay.
up. I'll show you a picture. There's, I think Shane Dawson, who I don't watch, but I watch...
Shane Dawson came on his cat.
Oh, that's interesting.
You've been not on the internet for 2 days, I can see.
No!
Oh boy,
Okay.
that was trending.
Alright.
Oh my goodness. Shane Dawson said that he rubbed his cat on his dick and then came on the cat and then later on said, I'm not coming on my cat.
Okay, so here's the conspiracy theory, though,
Okay.
with Chuck E. Cheese pizza. The conspiracy is that Chuck E. Cheese, when you're done with your pizza, if you don't eat it all, the Chuck E. Cheese doesn't throw away the pizza. They will take the slices that are not eaten and then reform pizzas with them, reheat them up. And this is a thing that happens because people go to Chuck E. Cheese, and you should see some pictures, and people are like, these slices do not fucking match. This is not a single pizza, and like a bunch of people on YouTube have gone now to Chuck E. Cheese, and the pizzas never fucking match.
Okay, wait, why don't we just ask a Chuck E. Cheese worker?
They have to sign NDAs, apparently. That one's fine. But you find a lot of odd ones. I'm not saying that one's true, but that's a fun conspiracy theory. Because it's not like Russians are hacking elections. It's like, you're eating gross pizza. That's the kind of conspiracy I'm about now.
You're eating gross pizza.
Yeah, so I don't blow my brains out.
Okay, well. I think... Is this even a conspiracy theory? This is more of a myth. There's a name for it. What's Bigfoot? What's it called?
Sasquatch!
No, it's called like a cryptid. Cryptid. It's called a cryptid.
Yeah.
Um,
Cryptozoology, the study of mythical beasts.
Okay, expert. Weird flex.
We're going squatching!
We're not going squatching. My student teacher, well, not I was a student teacher,
Yeah.
but my teacher that did the thing. My supervising teacher, I don't know what they're called, actually. I don't even know if we had titles for them. Anyway, Mr. Clark, shout out Mr. Clark. I know you're not watching. He was doing a fundraiser at the school, and they were selling the Jack Link Squatch sticks, and he's very into the Sasquatch myth. I don't think he believes it. I think he just wants to believe it.
Sure.
And he likes to share that with his students when it's boring day.
Okay.
And he's like, check out this Squatch thing, and he'll put it up on the thing. It's very funny. Anyway, he did a hunting for Squatch skit with a multimedia class, and he was finding Squatch sticks all around the school in a way, and it was a commercial to drive for the sales thing. Anyway.
Okay.
Good for him. I like that. I like when teachers make themselves look silly. It makes the students more happy to learn from them. Anyway, Yetis.
Why Yetis?
So, hear me out. I
Yeah.
think probably large Arctic primates probably existed because of the way, I haven't looked into it for several years, but I looked into it kind of after the JFK part of my life, which was like 2008-ish. I was unemployed for a little bit in 2008,
Okay.
and I had a lot of time on my hands in between job applications.
In between job applications and watching Iron Man for the first time. Bright-eyed, bushy-tailed Jake.
Yeah, pretty much.
2008.
2008, 19 years old,
Yeah.
looking forward to the world.
The economy's about to crash. Everything's going good.
Yeah, I couldn't get a job, turns out. And so, looking into that, in the Tibetan area and, that mountainous region in general in Mongolia and stuff like that.
The Yeti part.
There's lots of very similar accounts, and what it seems like is we killed them all. It seems like there's an extinct species of probably
Some sort of hominid.
white-haired or gray-haired, or just maybe they're covered in snow and shit. Large primates that probably, because they don't live far from where the other primates live. It seems reasonable. I think it's overblown. There's some pictures of very old, like I don't know, when did the photograph exist? it seems like 1800s, right?
Yeah.
1800s pictures of like real big monkeys and stuff that are kind of white haired and stuff. There could have been like the Yeti. So I think the Yeti probably existed in a very non-cryptid way.
Yeah.
Like unlike how like Loch Ness,
Yeah.
or I guess Nessie, or like the Mothman. I don't think those things exist, but I think that probably existed at some point. I think it's an extinct species.
I do wonder, because, I mean, photography and stuff has existed for such little time, and human exploration has only been easy, and I say easy in a relative sense,
Yeah.
for about the same amount of time. I wonder how many extinct species we were really close to, but never, like, will ever have any evidence of, because...
Well, I mean, we have pictures of dodos and shit, and they died real fast, so...
I think that's why they're in the public consciousness, though,
because they were one of those
things. They were one of the
things.
last. They were like right on that cusp of like, we know
Yeah.
these things exist. They're documented. Oh, they're gone.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's also evidence of like what people like to call unicorns. They're thinner hippopotamus adjacent animals that had like longer spindly noses that a lot of people called unicorns.
Like a land narwhal.
The Harappan seals. I've showed you Harappa before, right?
Okay.
Or the Mohenjo-Daro seals have pictures of these things. Drawn in relief on clay, but
Sure.
they're so uniform, and the I guess the anatomy is so similar that they think, I guess they probably could have had like they're kind of like in between.
They might have just had a standard idea of what this mythical creature is.
No,
and they're just
they don't think it was
image of
mythical. I'm not saying the horn was up here. The horn was on the nose like a rhinoceros.
Sure.
It was just a little thinner and like taller. They could have just drawn it poorly, but it was so consistent
Like
across
a-
different artists.
like a rhino horse.
Somewhere in there. I mean, they don't have hooves, but yeah. So I don't know. I'm sure there's probably lots of animals that didn't exist. I think this is interesting. If you guys let me know what your
There are lots of animals that didn't exist. As a sentence.
Yeah, I said that totally wrong. But lots of animals that don't exist anymore that did exist probably that are just fucking wild to us. I want to know down below. Are there any cryptids like that, like chupacabra? Jersey Devil. Do any of you actually believe in that stuff? And if so, do you have like cool like links to that stuff? I'll look through that sometime on stream or something. That could be fun.
You're all wrong. Don't get me on ghosts. I'll get on that
ghosts,
fucking ghost binge.
Ghosts are not things. Are ghosts things?
No.
Ghosts are things.
Joey Jojo, dear Hugh and Jackie.
I like Hugh.
Okay. Makes me feel like an anime character. I don't think I like that. Is it normal to be in your 30s and never had a girlfriend? I am not an incel or MGTOW. MGTOW stands for men going their own way. And I am doing everything I can, but I still haven't had a girlfriend. Am I doing something wrong? Am I meant to be alone?
Also, later on, Joey Jojo also said, why is there... I didn't want to grab two. Why is there a stigma on people who can't or haven't had sex? I think this is an easy... Not easy. I think it's an interesting question. I think this is reasonable to ask.
Sure. There's nothing wrong with you.
Yeah.
But be wary, because the road to incel-dumb is paved in good intentions and just thinking to yourself, but why don't I have a girlfriend?
Right.
If you get too caught up in being like, I don't have a girlfriend, there's something wrong with me. What's wrong with this? Why can't I... Blah, 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 blah. Don't think about that. Not a big deal.
That's easier said than done, but
I understand.
it is good advice.
But I'm just letting you know, like, what in an ideal world the healthy thing to do would be.
Mm-hmm.
And if you cannot do this, at the very least, it may be difficult. I'm not saying it's easy, but you need to chug through anyway. Say, hey, what do I got going on myself?
What do I have to offer another person?
Sure. Because at the end of the day, if you find someone you want to be with as a companion, chances are you don't just want someone who's like physically attractive, though certainly health is a part of it. I assume you want someone who's in decent shape so they don't like die immediately.
Sure.
Same with yourself. Are you in decent shape? I'm not, but I'm in the middle of losing weight right now. Do you have hobbies? Do you have interesting things to talk about? I mean, the best way to get other people interested in you is to be an interesting person. And to become an interesting person, you need to have interests and things that you want to talk about. And that doesn't have to be like, I go mountain climbing and Kilimanjaro. Like, you don't have to do that. It can just be like, oh, I'm really into movies. Here's the movies I like. Here's the directors I like. Here's why. Like,
yeah,
have
I think
interests.
I think a lot of people that aren't interesting are afraid to be, because they think
They're self-conscious, and I get it.
Right, yeah, and that's not a... I guess it's not a slight... I've never had... I don't know if you can tell. I've never had a problem with being able to talk to people. It's just kind of a thing that happens. It makes Hugo very uncomfortable sometimes. That I am so comfortable.
You're the social unbreakable to my social Mr. Glass.
You're not nearly that bad, but yeah.
Okay.
It's... I don't know. To me, what I look for in another person... Let's just assume you're trying to pick me up, okay? Joey. If I don't have anything to talk with you about, that's not going to happen. I don't care if you're the hottest Joey I've ever seen in my life. Now you sound like a kangaroo, but that's fine. It's conversation, and it doesn't mean you have to force conversation. And I know these might sound like competing ideas here, but it should feel natural. You should just feel like you want to share an idea with that person, and that person would probably respond with an idea they have about the thing, whatever it is. And it doesn't even have to be a shared experience. Like, you could be like, hey, have you ever, like, I don't know, do you play basketball? Like, oh, no, I don't play basketball. Oh, I do. We should go to a game. Like, would you be interested in going to a game sometime? Well, I don't know. I don't really do sports. It's like, yeah, but hear me out. Here's this, and this I like about that. Maybe we would enjoy it. And if not, whatever, that's cool. And then maybe they'll be like, oh, well, I like to go to plays or whatever. And I'm like, well, I've never been to play.
For the record,
you know
this is
mean?
also after you've probably built up some sort of rapport with this person.
Sure.
This
Yeah, well, no, you're not like asking them to hang out if you don't know who the fuck they are.
I understand. I'm just saying.
I guess I just assumed you knew people in your life.
Bold assumption for some people. It just depends.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh.
It just depends.
Well, if you don't know anybody, I mean... If you don't know anybody, expecting or wondering why you don't have a girlfriend seems odd.
This is also where hobbies and interests come in.
Yeah.
Because there are clubs, there are local groups, there are probably get-togethers.
Clubs, not like club.
No. Like a club like, I enjoy... Maybe you like books. Maybe there's a book club you could go to and meet some people and talk about certain books. Or
the internet is also a beautiful place.
Yeah, or like Dungeons and Dragons. That's probably for antisocial people.
That's a fertile mating ground.
Yeah, you'll find a lot. Okay, you're not going to find as many women there, but they exist. They exist.
They exist.
But don't just hit on them either, though. I don't think anyone wants to go to a D group to be just hit on.
I don't think so.
Make the idea.
Make friends first.
Make friends.
Worry about making friends, and it doesn't matter what sex they are. It doesn't matter what gender they are. It doesn't matter what orientation they are. It doesn't matter if there's romantic prospects down the line, because the more people you know, the more likely it is you will find someone that is compatible with you in a romantic way, because you know people. Just knowing Hugo's a bad example. Yeah. Knowing another person, they know people.
I'm a networking dead end. That's just because I'm a bad example.
So I know blank. And they know people, like I know people, and you knew people because I do.
I solely exist in society due to his connections.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, and so, yeah, that is a bad example. So meet a me. Meet a me, find a me, because me probably likes you, because I like most people, as long as you're not stupid. And you don't sound stupid, you're a fan of the show, you've made good choices in your life. I almost said that without laughing. And so, yeah, I honestly... I don't think I have ever intentionally like really chased after a person, and I'm not a supermodel. I don't think there's people clamoring, right? I don't want you. This is not me searching for fucking people clamoring in the comments, by the way. I will not read them. So I just it just sort of happens naturally because I'm a very effusive person, and maybe you're not that, but find yourself an effusive person that you also enjoy spending time with.
Effusive. That's a good word.
Yeah. I used effervescent is a word I like to use for myself as well.
I used the word effervescent to describe your personality the other day.
It is definitely that. Okay. It is. It's a lot.
It is a lot.
It is a lot. And so that's fine, though. Like, find someone, and it doesn't have to be a me, and maybe you're not comfortable around me's, but find someone that maybe knows other people, or one of your friends, you know?
A lot of life is just networking.
Yeah, literally just network. And I guarantee you will accidentally find someone that likes you for the person that you are and finds you attractive. And because I don't think most people are like just hags, right?
No,
like even if you look like a hag,
as
right?
long as you have like hygiene and
right.
you're like taking care of yourself,
Yeah,
I think
absolutely. So, like, and I say this, and I don't know what you look like, so I'm going to assume you are the ugliest person I've ever seen. There is someone out there for you, and you are beautiful to them. That sounded way too wholesome. You're also an asshole. So there you go.
You little shit with a She-Ra character.
Which one is that?
I don't remember. I only watched like the first 3 episodes of the new She-Ra. I enjoyed
The new
it.
She-Ra season's coming out, and Sarah's very excited.
Okay, I watched Voltron. Same people did that, and it was pretty good. So some of those people worked on Last Airbender as well, and they're all pretty good. So, dear Hugo and Jake, do you think people who are raped and do not report it are at least in part responsible for any future sexual assaults that the perpetrator may commit? One of my friends said quite a while ago that this is the case, and I cannot differentiate between my own guilt over being raped and the logic or lack thereof behind this statement. It seems to make sense in theory, but I also have no proof of any wrongdoing. Her argument was that at least the rapist would be in the system and flagged if reported in the future. Am I partially responsible for anyone else he hurts? Reporting it would be hell for me and certainly would not help the PTSD, but I would consider it the right thing to do.
You are more important than anyone else in this scenario, in my opinion. I do understand why you would feel a moral obligation if this person were serially committing this crime. Yeah. However, you say you have PTSD, you say it's not good for your personal mental health. I have a very hard time asking you, a victim, to do that.
Especially in an environment that is the current culture that often will lash out at people who make...
I mean, this has been the culture all the time, but yeah.
I want to point out, firstly, you should not feel any, responsibility in the sense
for that person's actions.
That person is culpable for their own actions, and them alone. Would it be helpful? Perhaps, but at the end of the day, you gotta do what you're gonna do. I think it would be a positive thing, and the more people who accurately report the crimes, the more people will be aware.
I think. How about this? I don't think it's a negative if you don't do it. I think it's a positive if you do.
That's how I'd put it.
Does that make sense?
Too. Yeah.
I think if it wouldn't, if you would feel better in the long run, I would talk about it with your therapist if you have one, or get one, and discuss this thing. Maybe they can report on your behalf, and you don't have to go through that, right?
I also for instance, I don't want to speak because I can't speak from necessarily experience about this, but I was watching Leaving Neverland, the Michael Jackson documentary on HBO.
Should we talk about that?
Which is very good.
Should we watch that?
Yeah, maybe. I'd at least recommend you personally watch it. Everyone else out there as well, because it's pretty illuminating. And one of the victims mentions how they had originally not only not told people at the time of the trials that were going on during Michael Jackson's, when he was accused the first time of sexual abuse, he didn't not only not say anything, he actively defended Michael.
Yeah.
And at the end, when he talks about this a little bit, and he's like, people ask, do I feel guilty about this? And he says, it's hard to say. I don't know, because at that time, I wasn't ready to come to terms with that and to go to someone. I can't blame myself for what I wasn't ready.
That's such a healthy approach. That guy must have had counseling.
Yeah, he did. He talks about it in the thing. He's like, I can't hold myself responsible for not doing a thing when I was a victim in the first place, and
that's where I'm at. I think in a vacuum, I think it's more morally correct, but that totally negates
personal
how that affects you, and it's not for me to force you to do. I mean, you've already been forced to do too much. So
I don't. My last thing to say on this is just, I don't feel like you should feel an obligation to do so,
right.
But I hope you understand that no matter what you decide to do, it is valid, and you are okay, and, that's your choice to make, and no matter what, I hope you have people around you who are supportive and are willing to be behind you. So.
No segue.
Xenon Excimer?
Excimer? I always say Excimer. I don't know.
Hey Jake, any tips on telling a party DM that you're really just not feeling the campaign anymore? All good friends, no problems with anyone, and losing my character would be a pretty major change, but I feel it's like a chore now, and I think it started to show the way I play. I don't want to bring their game down.
So, as a DM, I would want you to be like, hey, I don't know if I'm really into it. Because the first thing I would ask is it the character? Is there the style of game? Is it just the time you have to spend here? Because your character can totally take a break and you can come back. Do you want to play a new character altogether? Are you just not into role play games in general? Which I find very odd because it seems like I don't know. It just scratches so many itches, I think.
I get
But
it. If you're a person who doesn't want to spend a bunch of time
if you don't
in
want to
their
spend a
head
bunch
and
of time,
picturing, I get
you can totally opt out. And I think your friends would get it, and especially like they want to spend time with you, and so that's like like they can spend time with you doing other stuff. You know what I mean? Not a big a deal. I think it'd be fun.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if you're like the game is fine. I think it's fun. I think everyone's having a good time. I just don't know if I'm feeling it. Like I think that's reasonable and valid.
They can't shame you into playing a game you don't want to play.
I would consider though being like maybe you're just burnt out on it because burnout happens.
Sure.
Like I don't know if you guys play weekly or monthly or whatever. If you guys play pretty often, it could just be burnout. And maybe just be like, hey, I'm gonna take a break for a little bit, and if I come back, I'll come back.
Sure.
And I think that's totally valid. And maybe you don't want to make that promise at all and just say I want to leave. Totally fine. This goes for more than just D&D, by the way. I picked this question. I wasn't gonna pick it because not everybody plays D&D. Right?
Yeah.
And some people are like, D&D.
This could apply to
More
a lot
content. It's free. So yeah, this could apply for pretty much anything. So if your friends do a thing and you don't want to do the thing, don't do the thing. Let them know you don't want to do the thing. Tell them why you don't want to do the thing when they ask why. Don't just say, ah. Be like, okay, here's the reason why. And be honest with them. And then, they're your friends. They love and support you probably. Like, just play video games with them or something, Play cards. I don't know. Don't play anything at all. Hang out and only have serious discussions. I don't know what you're into. Live your life. But, yeah, there's no reason to force yourself to do a thing. I do understand the draw of trying to force yourself to do the thing because that's the only time you could probably hang out with your friends on a regular basis. Sure. Which is kind of the draw of something like an organized D&D. But yeah, so I think you got it.
Earlquake, ooh, that's a good name. Dear Hugo and Jake, I don't usually take time to ask questions of you guys. Took me the better part of 20 minutes organizing this to try and not come off as an idiot. Just mostly lurk in your channel, but matters as of late have me perturbed, and I thought it best to ask more level-headed minds for their opinion. Oh no, we're the level-headed minds? That concerns me.
Dun dun dun.
In case of the Christian church shootings, I have my mind...
Christchurch.
Oh, sorry. In the case of the Christchurch shootings, I have my mind fixated on the outcome for both the right and the left, and it feels like a Kobayashi Maru situation in terms of what the shooter wanted. Kobayashi Maru, for people who don't know, is the Star Trek no-win scenario test in which command people in Starfleet had to take it to learn how to lose. Lose-lose situation, basically. Nobody can win because everyone's already started doing what it is he claims he wanted them to do. What I wanted to ask is this: are those on the right simply just parroting the narrative of don't give him publicity just to not look like the origins of his monstrous behavior? Are the left simply packing bodies into a nice little soapbox and taking the rest and using them as ammo to slam people they don't like? The reason it's bothering me is that I'm probably more right of center than anything else, despite not being American. Jamaica says hi. And it feels like every catastrophe the bodies become muted, and it just evolves into another round of groups throwing words at each other. What could solve this without villainization? Can this be solved without the villainization?
That's a pretty good question. I like that you know how to write words, and you write them real nice. I appreciate you, Earlquake, and please write more words, because boy, could people use this as a template on how to properly form sentences and thoughts. Whew! I just had to give you a little bit of suck on that one. So, I'm not right of center at all. Here's my answer. I do think that you're kind of right in some ways. So, as far as the what was your actual words? Those on the right simply parroting the narrative of don't give him publicity just to not look like the origins of his monstrous behavior. A lot of them. A lot of them buy into the bullshit, but a lot of them also are like, pretty much all of these big shootings are right-wing terrorists.
I find it hypocritical. I just want to say this firstly, because these people on the right are the first people to say if there's like some sort of Islamic terrorism, or if there's
by the way,
a drug cartel from Mexico or whatever, they're like, oh no, we gotta ban all Muslims. Oh, we gotta build a fucking wall. Right. But oh, it's some white right-wing guy. Oh, what caused his mental health to deteriorate? No. One or the other. Pick or choose. Either you deal with people on an individual level and try and get down to the base of why they're doing the things they're doing, or you generalize and stereotype entire groups of people in a terribly xenophobic fashion. You don't get to do both at once.
That's a big...
You fucking assholes.
It's a big part of my problem.
Yeah.
I debate guns almost as much as I debate religion when these things happen. As far as the left, are they packing bodies into a soapbox and taking the rest and use them as ammo to slam people they don't like? Some people maybe, but I think it's important to understand that people on the left, when another shooting happens, and this time it wasn't in the United States, every time the left goes, "This is preventable! We could prevent this!" And we're all like, can we prevent this, please? I want to reiterate before there's anger, I don't want to ban all guns. I don't know how many times I've had to say this, but I do, a lot, have to say this. I have very strict guidelines under which I would allow guns, and you could still have the Second Amendment, and blah, blah, blah. And it should be regulated. It is not a fucking lollipop. It is a weapon. It is meant to kill people at range with efficiency. It's a bad thing to give to most people. Now, that said, I do see value and utility in these things to some degree, not to the degree that the people that love the Second Amendment seem to enjoy them. You're from Jamaica. You don't have the Second Amendment. I don't know if you guys, what your gun laws are. It doesn't really matter to me in this scenario, because it's just about the two arguments that you're seeing. The arguments you're seeing are from a very American-centric point of view. That guy was an Australian that went to New Zealand and got the guns there, I believe. And he bought them legally, and two of them were assault shotguns that are semi-automatics. There's no situation in which I could imagine you need a semi-automatic assault shotgun. Like, it just seems superfluous for every single situation.
Unless you're hunting zombies, which is a lot like hunting people.
Yeah, slow ones that want to eat your brains. Oh. And that's valid. There were some handguns involved, all of which were magazine fed, if I know correctly. I could be wrong. But either way, the number one in the United States where this happens. By the way, the United States is responsible for 14% of worldwide gun violence, along with the other people in the top group there are like Nicaragua, Mexico, Brazil, Venezuela. And the rest of the world is 50%. So I'm just saying, if that's our bar, if that's the bar you want to set for the country that you live in, the United States was supposed to be the greatest country in the world, you are right above Mexico and right below fucking Venezuela, the place you say is the worst place on the planet, people on the right. That's your bar. That's where you've put us. Okay. These things can be prevented. That's why if I'm stuffing bodies into a soapbox, it's more like a really, really big coffin, and we have to bury them again because they keep dying because of preventable things. I mean, this is so easy. They're not cars. You don't drive your gun to work. They don't have utility like knives. These are weapons, and as soon as we respect them as weapons and understand that they're weapons and know that their purpose is to shoot the thing that they're pointing at, then we can fucking own them with a realistic standard in mind, because they are meant to kill things. It's important that we understand that. They are not just for sport. They can be used for sport, but that's not their intention. They're made to shoot things real good, and they do, and sometimes they're fun. I have had a gun license. I have shot guns recreationally. I've shot animals with a hunting license before. It's a thing I have done, It's not a thing I need to do. It's a thing that we enjoy doing. It's so easy to prevent this kind of thing from being in the hands. Now, the argument is people that are going to murder people are going to find a way. Maybe so, but guess what we can do? We can build a wall and make it harder for them to get to the thing they want to get to, because that thing they want to get to should be more illegal.
A legal wall between them and the guns.
Yes, and that's all I'm saying. So if you believe in the wall and you don't believe in gun control, you're just a racist.
I still haven't had it explained to me why anyone needs a semi-automatic rifle for hunting.
The only argument that has ever made sense to me as far as like the semi-automatic rifles, which by the way is not the biggest problem, although
most mass shootings are done with semi-automatics.
Rifles. Most mass shootings are 2 or more people. Most mass shootings are done with handguns. Most of the worst shootings are done with the rifles.
That's the statistic I'm trying to get to. Yeah. My bad.
The big ones are the rifles. Like the Vegas shooting was done with bump stocks and rifles. So the only time I've ever heard that is, and I think it is valid, there are places around the country, not in the cities, not in the most rural places, but like ranchers and stuff, they have pest problems with like coyotes and stuff, especially if they have cattle. You need something that can shoot many bullets in quick succession with high caliber in order to make sure, because they run in packs.
I'm not saying that.
But if you own
a fucking one of these things.
That's a
This is how much I know about guns.
Okay, a carbine or a lever action.
Lever action.
Okay.
That's what I'm thinking of.
I mean,
or
either one.
As long as you have
action.
to do something in between the shots.
But here's the thing. If you own a ranch, I'm fine with you being able to apply for a license for an AR-15.
Sure.
Because that seems to have utility. If you can prove to me you can have a utility beyond personal protection, then you get the thing you want.
Sure.
It's not an Uzi. It's not an automatic, but a semi-automatic makes sense in that situation, I think. Because I think it's important for ranchers to be able to take care of pests if they need to. And it's not just a pest thing. Like, they're not going out and hunting coyotes. They're protecting their shit. And that's totally valid. And so, like, there's stuff like that. I don't know. But, like, being a guy and you're just like, I'm a libertarian, I think taxes are theft, and hoarding weapons, I don't think that's a valid reason for you to have a fucking, like, assault shotgun. I just don't. And so, I'm sorry if that offends you. I'm not, actually. I take that back. I'm not sorry.
BFT Neelix. Shout out to Neelix, the greatest Star Trek character of all time. Oh, God. Hugo Lloyd and Jakey Poo, please tell me you guys are going to do an atheist watch for The Trump Prophecy. I just learned 2 minutes ago that this movie exists, and I immediately thought of you.
That's my suggestion for the next one.
Yeah. Okay. We'll do The Trump Prophecy.
Last question.
Harvey Manfredjensen. How has he been in like every episode for like the past? He's in almost every. Ask Hugo too.
Oh, he's just a good guy.
Yeah.
Hi, Harv.
Good writer. If you opened a restaurant, what kind of restaurant would it be, and what would it be called?
I have a really good idea for a restaurant. You want to go in on it with me?
I don't know. What is it?
So,
is this going to be your sub shop idea?
No.
Okay, I was going to check out because I've heard your idea for a sub shop like 50 fucking times.
Probably like 5 times.
Yeah, it felt like a lot more.
Okay, but no, this is it's better than that. So it'd be what's a really good fantasy pub name?
A fantasy pub.
The first fantasy pub name you guys ever entered was the Cracked Flask.
Okay, sure.
Okay, so call it the Cracked Flask or whatever. And what you do is you go inside and everybody is in D&D-esque garb.
Okay.
All the tables are there available to you, and you can play D&D. You can order food, you can order beverages, and if you come in dressed up, you get a discount.
That would be a very loud...
And it's a game shop on the other side, and basically it'd be booths, where one side was like the DM side, the other side was a player side, and it'd kind of be like... in my head, how that would work is you'd have an ovular-shaped booth like this, and like right here, right in this area, you'd have like where the DM would sit, And so the players would sit on the inside, DM would sit out here, so that they could. Yeah.
Let me explain to you and destroy your dreams and explain why this would not work as a profitable business.
Well, it works in several places around the country as a profitable business.
You would need it to be in like a major city.
Well, yeah, it wouldn't be here.
Okay. Well, I'm
What
just
do you
saying.
think? I'm gonna put one across the street?
No, I'm just saying as
He didn't say I was restricted to my area.
I'm saying even within a minor city, this would be an issue just because. For one thing,
I think the
the
one in Boulder,
theming alone,
Colorado,
assuming it's a well-themed restaurant, going to cost a ton of money.
Yeah.
You're going to need people who not only have a background in waiter and waitressing, but maybe a little bit of improv if you want them to, like, play along with whatever. That's going to cost a little bit extra. Now you have people at your table eating. They're not just eating their dinner and going home, and time is money. It's opportunity
It's a game
cost.
shop too.
Fair enough, but still, you could have
Buying dice. You ever had nerds look at dice?
It would need to be a nerd, Cracker Barrel. It would be to nerds what Cracker Barrel is to old people.
Yeah.
Like, it's majorly themed.
But it wouldn't... See,
there's
here's the
a
thing.
shop attached. Everything would need to have a pretty high
Here's the
markup
thing.
to make it profitable.
Here's the thing. I've already thought about this.
Okay.
Tapas.
Tapas?
Tapas.
Yeah, I know what
Small
tapas are.
plates.
And do special snacks, little snack things for the table, like...
Think if we were sitting down playing D&D for 4 hours, right?
Mm-hmm.
All of us got drinks, so all of us at least are $5 to $6 in the hole already, right?
Yeah.
Okay, and that's 5 of us.
Okay.
So now we all want some snacks, right? But we don't want to sit there and with a fork and knife eat pasta. You want finger food. So now everybody's got some finger food. Oh, I want to try that. I want to try that. Oh, you've been sitting there for 4 hours. Round 2 of food. Oh, I need some dice. Okay, I need some. Oh, I need a mini for a thing. Mini's right over there. Oh man, I'm drinking the whole time. Yeah, I love it. It doesn't have to be only alcohol. I'm just saying, game shops do it without all the cool food, and they're still in business. It's literally just adding food to a game shop.
I know you're adding a lot of expenses.
Sure, but I mean, this is just if you could open a restaurant. If I have the upfront cost of the restaurant, I don't think the rest of it...
Okay.
Yeah, right?
Okay.
You know what I'm saying?
Sure. Mine is going to be called Toasties. And it's going to be called a grilled... It's just going to be grilled cheeses. Yeah.
I think that's already a thing.
No, that's cheesies. This is going to be borderline copyright infringement. I'm going to be the Burger King of grilled cheese restaurants.
Really, really fluffy white bread, American cheese, and then Doritos in the middle. Make that grilled cheese.
Sure.
Call that the childhood.
Okay.
Grilled cheese bars are pretty good. I like a grilled cheese bar. Yeah, that's it. This is a long one.
Okay.
We were here for a long, long time. I feel like we haven't done this in a while, though, so I picked extra.
All right. So I guess that's it.
Yep.
I was going to tell you to ask more questions, but that's not how this show works.
Well, no, you go to the Ask Hugo section, Ask Hugo and Jake, in the Discord.
Link in the description.
Yep, and we have just tons of members. People get to ask all the time. I also did it on Twitter, so if you want to make sure you do that, follow me at Actual Jake, or at Papa Bird Jake. I'm Actual Jake, though, on the Twitter machine, at Papa Bird Jake, and I'll be around. You follow Hugo at Hugo Reloaded. You can send stuff to the P.O. Box at this address right here. Poof, that was in post. Wow. So fancy.
Much quality.
Wowzers.
So until next time, I'm Hugo.
I'm Jake.
This has been Hugo and Jake.
Yay!
See you guys next time. It'll be, what are we doing next time? No, we just did that.
Next time, Captain Marvel.
What?